Hello everyone, welcome to the Bodhi Academy. In today's video, we are going to continue with Standard 12 Biology Chapter 14, that is Ecosystem. So, in the last video, we have learnt about the two types of ecosystem, that is terrestrial and aquatic. Then we have also learned about the structure and function of the ecosystem. Then we have learnt about the stratification. So, the components of ecosystem that are seen to function as a unit when you consider these following aspects. So, we have seen the four aspects, that is productivity, decomposition, energy flow and nutrient cycling. So, in the last video we have done this productivity and nutrient cycling. So, in today's video we are going to learn about the energy flow. So, productivity and decomposition we have done. In today's class we are going to learn about the energy flow. So, let us begin. Now, energy flow. All living organisms are dependent on their food on producers directly or indirectly. We know that the plants, whatever plants which are there, are the primary producers, that is they take up the energy from the sun, and with the help of water and carbon dioxide they will prepare the food. So, since they can prepare their own food, they are called as the primary producers or producers. Now, all the other living organisms, whatever which are there, the herbivores, carnivores, so they will depend on these producers for their food either directly or indirectly. Directly meaning the herbivores which feed on plants, they will depend directly on the producers, they will directly eat. Whereas indirectly means whatever carnivores which are there, they will feed on these herbivores. So they are indirectly dependent on the producers, because the herbivores are then again dependent on producers. So the flow of energy is unidirectional, meaning from producers whatever energy is produced, it will from producers it will go to the herbivores. Then from herbivores it will go to the next higher organisms, that is carnivores, and then there are other higher organisms. So the flow of energy is unidirectional. So there is a unidirectional flow of energy from the sun to the producers and then to the consumers. Okay, so the energy comes first from the sun, then it is taken up by the producers, that is the plants, and then it goes to the consumers. So this is how first the energy will come from the sun to the plants, the producers, and then from this plant it will go to the consumers. It is any animals or man, insects. Then photosynthetically active radiations is responsible for the synthesis of food by plants. Now animals obtain their food from plants, so they are called as consumers. Now whatever herbivores and all which are the animals which feed on plants, these obtain their food from plants, and that is why they are called as the consumers. They do not produce their own food, they depend on plants, that is the producers, so that is why they are called as the consumers. Then the process of eating and being eaten is called a food chain, in which energy flow from producers to the consumers. Now the process of eating and being eaten forms the food chain between all the organisms in the ecosystem, in which the flow of energy goes from producers to consumers. For examples, first will be the sun. The energy from sun will be used by the plants or the producers to produce the food. So these are our producers. Then this grass can be eaten by some rabbit and all. So here this rabbit is our primary consumer. Then this rabbit can be eaten up by a fox or anything. So this fox is our secondary consumer. Then this fox can be eaten up by a lion. So here our lion is our tertiary consumer. So this process of eating and being eaten forms a chain. So this is forming a chain kind of, and this chain is called as the food chain. This is called as the food chain, where there is supply of energy from the producers to the consumers. So then next talking about the, so now this is a grazing food chain. So in grazing food chain, here same thing that I explained. First the producers will be there. In this case there is a grass, then primary consumer, that is a goat, and then the man, which is the secondary consumer. So this is an example of a food chain. Then there is another type of food chain, that is the detritus food chain. Now detritus food chain means it begins with the dead organic matter. So whatever organisms, plants or animals that have died, and whatever their remains is, it starts from that dead organic matter. So it is made up of decomposers, which are heterotrophic organisms such as fungi and bacteria. So heterotrophic means depending on others for their food or nutrition. So it is made up of the decomposers. So the examples which are given are fungi and bacteria. Now these organisms are also known as saprotrophs, meaning those who decompose. So saprotrophs. So what these decomposers, what these fungi and bacteria do is, they will secrete some digestive enzymes. So they will secrete some digestive enzymes that will break down the dead and waste materials into simple inorganic materials. So the complex organic matter which is there, it will be broken down into simple organic materials by these decomposers by secreting some of the digestive enzymes. And then once they are broken down into simple organic materials, they will be subsequently absorbed by these bacteria and fungi. So the natural interconnection of food chain forms the food web. Okay, so when a lot of these food chains interconnect, it forms a food web. So then talking about the difference between the grazing food chain and the detritus food chain. So the transfer of energy in grazing food chain starts from the producers, whereas in detritus food chain it starts from the detritus or the decomposing organic matter. Then in grazing food chain there is less energy flow, whereas in detritus food chain there is more energy flow. Then in aquatic ecosystem, it is the major conduit for energy transfer, whereas detritus food chain is major conduit for energy transfer in terrestrial ecosystem. Then based on the source of food, organisms occupies a specific place in the food chain that is known as the trophic level. So based on the source of food, like suppose based on the source of food meaning based on whatever food the organism eats, the organism will occupy a specific place in the food chain that is known as the trophic level. For example, we have primary consumers, secondary consumers and tertiary consumers. So these are the places occupied by different organisms based on whatever food they eat. So let us understand this better. For example, first we have the primary consumers. Now the primary producers. So the primary producers, it is the first trophic level and it will contain all the plants. Some of the examples are, we have phytoplanktons which are present in the water bodies, then grasses, trees. So all these are the primary producers which will occupy the first trophic level. Then the next trophic level is the second trophic level, which is occupied by the herbivores, which are the primary consumers. Now some of the examples are the zooplankton, grasshoppers and cow. Then the next trophic level, the third trophic level, is occupied by the carnivores, okay, which feed on the herbivores. So examples are birds, fishes, wolf, etc. So these are called the secondary consumers. So here the birds can feed on insects and all, which are herbivores, and which are the primary consumers which will feed on the plants. Then the next is the fourth trophic level, which are occupied by the top carnivores such as man and lion and all, and they are called as the tertiary consumers. So first we have primary producers at the first trophic level, then primary consumers at the second trophic level, then secondary consumers at the third trophic level, and the tertiary consumers at the fourth trophic level. Then standing crop. Now each trophic level has a certain mass of living material at a particular time, that is called as the standing crop. Meaning each trophic level now at the first trophic level, that is the producers. So this is one trophic level and it will have a certain mass of living organisms. So in this at a particular area, all the plants, all the producers which are there, they will have a certain mass, okay. The mass of these is called as the, at a particular time, is called as the standing crop. Then again talking about the primary consumers at the second trophic level. Now this will contain all the herbivores. So whatever mass which is there of all the herbivores at an area at a particular time is the standing crop of that trophic level. So it is measured by the biomass of living organism. So it is measured by the mass of the living organism, or the number in unit area, or the number of organisms in unit area. Then the number of trophic levels in grazing food chain is limited, as the transfer of energy follows the 10% law, that is only 10% of energy is transferred to each trophic level from the lower trophic level. So when a herbivore eats a producer, that is grass or a plant, only 10% of energy is transferred to it, because some of the energy gets used up for the processes, metabolic processes and all of the producers. So in grazing food chain, the following trophic levels are possible. So as we have already seen, the producers, herbivore, primary carnivore and the secondary carnivore. Then talking about the ecological pyramids. So ecological pyramids are the graphical representation of an ecological parameter such as number, biomass and energy sequence wise in various trophic level of a food chain, with producers at the base and herbivores in the middle and carnivores at the top tier, and it can be upright, inverted or spindle shaped. So basically ecological pyramids are graphical representation of the number, biomass or energy of each trophic level of a food chain. So in this it is like a graph. So in this the base portion is taken up by the producers. Then the next one is taken up by the herbivores, and the last part is taken up by the carnivores. So it can be upright. Now this is upright. It can be also inverted or spindle shaped. So let us see. Now this is an example of a ecological pyramid. So first base layer is taken up by the primary producers, then we have primary consumer, then we have secondary consumer, and then we have the tertiary consumer. Now these ecological pyramids can either represent the number of organisms. So this is either the number of organisms, that is number of producers, number of primary consumers, number of secondary consumers, and the number of tertiary consumers, or it can show the biomass or the energy at each trophic level. Then let us learn about all these three type of pyramids, that is number, biomass, and energy. So the first one that we have is pyramid of number. So this employs the number of individuals per unit area at various trophic levels, with producers at base and various consumers at successively higher levels, and it is generally upright. So basically same thing, it is generally upright. So the number of this is the number of producers, then the next stage is the number of primary consumers, then number of secondary consumers is represented, and then the number of tertiary consumers. Then a pyramid of number in case of big tree is generally inverted, because the number of insects feeding on that tree generally exceeds in number. So if we are talking, or if we are making a pyramid of a single tree, so we are making a pyramid of number for this tree. So the number of producer will be 1, right? So only one tree. Then the number of primary consumers will be a lot. Why? Because a lot of insects will be feeding on this tree. So this will be taken up by the insects, and then maybe there will be birds. So a lot of birds keep coming and going towards a tree. So now this is an inverted pyramid, inverted because the number of insects feeding on the tree generally exceeds in number. So understood this? So this is the first type of pyramid, that is pyramids of number. Then talking about the pyramids of biomass. Now pyramid of biomass represent the biomass in various trophic level. A pyramid of mass is upright except in aquatic food chain involving the short-lived planktons. So here we have the pyramid of biomass. Now usually it is upright, okay, where in terrestrial case food chain it is upright, whereas the aquatic food chain, the biomass, it is pyramid of biomass, it is inverted. Now why? So in aquatic habitat, the producers which are there are the phytoplanktons and all, okay, whatever algae which is there. So their biomass is less as compared to the consumers, which are the fishes. So the first one we will have is the phytoplanktons, whose mass, the weight will be much less. Even if they are in a huge number, their mass will be very less because they are very tiny microscopic organisms. And then the mass of the primary consumer, that is the small fishes, will be much greater than these phytoplanktons. Even if they are less in number, the mass of these fishes will be much greater. And then the secondary consumers, the mass of big fishes, whales and all will be much greater than these small fishes. So a pyramid of biomass in sea is generally inverted because the mass of fishes generally exceeds that of phytoplanktons. Then talking about the last type of pyramid, that is pyramid of energy. So now the pyramid of energy gives the graphical representation of amount of energy trapped by different trophic levels per unit area. So pyramid of energy is always upright and can never be inverted. So this is a pyramid of energy and it is always upright. So it will start from the producers, then consumers. So it is always upright and it can never be inverted, because when energy flows from one particular trophic level to the next trophic level, some energy is always lost. So some energy is always lost as heat at each step. Okay. So at each step, when the energy is transferred from the producers to the primary consumers and from primary consumers to the secondary consumers, some amount of energy is always lost as heat. So example, it is lost in feeding, digestion, assimilation and respiration. So this is all in today's video. Hope you have understood this. In the next video we will talk about the ecological pyramids we have done. In the next video we will talk about the ecological succession and the nutrient cycling. So thank you for watching my video. Please like, share and subscribe to the Bodhi Academy.